well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
I'm Patricia Nicholson Richards to
Welcome
our top
to Tobago
story.
Update Sports. I'm your boy Marcus Daniel. Thank you.
Trinidad and looms as
remains when
the public is
nobody lives here. Oil and gas exploration continues to affect the livelihood.
Speyside marine
in Tobago fishermen.
When will the
Sion Francis
hospital be fully functional?
Of the 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. window
Still find
at the islands
treasures like the golden
continue
waterfall
to rise in Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7:09 a.m. and this is the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you here live, and I pause from uptown Scarborough this morning at the Assembly Legislature for the Tobago House of Assembly. And on set with us this morning, in fact, this is a special edition for those of you now tuning in. We're having breakfast with the presiding officer, but we start with the business in the first instance, and then we chat and eat as we go on later down. In this first segment, and Ria is all smiles, folks, in this first segment, we are chatting with presiding officer of the Tobago House of Assembly, Miss Abby Taylor. Good morning.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning, Ria. How are you all?
Good to
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us.
You're most welcome.
So as we start this morning's conversation, you know, for those tuning in for the first time, we want to start with a sense of, you've been appointed as the presiding officer of the Tobago House of Assembly. How does that feel? How has the experience been?
I don't think it has really hit me as yet. I think after the first formal sitting, I will get the full gist of what this position really holds. Everybody has been telling me, Abby, you're this and you're that, but I have to feel it in order to be able to express myself fully. But yes, it's a good experience so far.
The transition, tell us something before getting here, moving from where you were before into this space. Where has your mind been? Your mother, yes. You know, operating in your own space, having to transition here. Give us an idea of the feel. Well, I mean, yes, it's a new experience, yes. But
politics was a whole new world for me. I literally had to get out of my shell, my normal being, because I'm a very quiet person to myself by nature. Prior to this, I literally just used to go to work, go to the gym and go home. So being out on the field, being on the ground, as most politicians say, interacting with people was primarily new to me. You know, after the first election, you wet your foot, you get a taste of what politics is really like, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that aspect of it. Transitioning from main politics into a position where now I'm apolitical, it's easy for me because, again, by nature, I am almost like a loner. it's just seeing my colleagues, both in the government and on the minority, in a different light, and seeing how we can help develop this space called Tobago. So it's an interesting journey so far. I'm loving the experience. I love to read, so I think here is the best place for me to get back into my history background and get to know more about our island called Tobago.
I want to, of course, put the plug out there. As proud past students of Scarborough Secondary School.
We be blue.
That's right.
As well as the connection with one of our viewers constantly on the Tobago Updates program, Cindy Taylor, your sister. I want you to share with Tobago.
Cindy
morning,
gets a wave.
Cindy. I want you to share with Tobago the importance of, the support of close friends and family in terms of taking on such a major responsibility.
Well, I don't think I could have done life without my family, especially my sister. My sister and I are very close. We are 11 months and 3 days apart, so technically we call ourselves twins for 3 days in the year. She is my backbone. She is my biggest cheerleader. She's everything to me. And as I said, I could not do life without her. I couldn't do life without her. And my mother and my eldest daughter, they have really stepped up and helped me with my two youngest. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And
interesting ages.
Very interesting ages. Sometimes I can't believe it. Yeah, I couldn't. Family and support, I think I have the best. I think I brag and I boast differently about mine. And my brothers, they always pray for me. They keep me in prayer because they have their families. One of my eldest brother lives in the States, and we meet, we pray. We are very closely connected. And so I have the best support system.
Well, I went to school with Cindy, but I also worked with Randy. Good morning, Randy Taylor. All right, before I get into trouble.
Yes, that and my friends as well. I have a very close, very small knit of best friends who I remember during the elections I called and I said, listen, I'm stressed out. One of them lives in the States, and a Saturday morning I woke up to her on my doorstep. So I really have a good circle of persons around me, and I'm really grateful for that.
It's the kind of connection we develop at Scarborough Secondary School.
Of course, we learned that.
Not bishops. Let me leave it there. Let me leave it there.
You only get that at Scarborough Secondary.
But I just needed to say not bishops.
No, not bishops at all.
Let me ask you, what is it that the public does not know about you? Tell us something that the public does not know about Abby Taylor.
I have 11 fingers. That's a weird thing. I have 3 thumbs, so when I give you 3 thumbs up, you did a really good job. You did a really good job. Most people think that I'm an outgoing person. I'm not. I don't party. Weirdly enough, and I did a degree in carnival studies.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I really love, I have the deepest respect for my elder brothers. I think they really stepped up when my mother needed them the most, and they played a critical role in my upbringing.
Just by chance, how many of you are there?
My father has 6 in all, 4 of which are my mother's. Right. My eldest brother, his name is Dr. Rennie Mark Taylor. He has 2 doctorates, I think, in special education. My second eldest brother is Pastor Randy Taylor. He is a guidance counselor attached to the Speyside High School. My sister is a midwife at Scarborough General, and there's me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you see, folks, we're getting that sneak peek into the life of the presiding officer this morning. As we continue the discussion, you have taken on a responsibility after the likes of, Kelvin Charles, Dr. Angus, Dr. Angus, Anne Mitchell Gift. In my childhood days, I knew Miss Anne Mitchell Gift as the presiding officer in this piece. How does it feel taking on this kind of responsibility after such a young age, coming after those individuals?
I can say this. I have strong shoulders to stand on. I think they would have set the tone and they would have laid the foundation for us young people, and especially I look to women and women in leadership so keenly, because I think we need a better or more representation of women, especially in politics. So I'm very appreciative of Mrs. Gift, and I'm very appreciative of Dr. Angus. Dr. Angus was my previous chairman at Festivals Commission, so I know her. I have worked with her. She's a really nice person. She's a gem of a lady, and I mean, they have set the tone, and hopefully I would leave a legacy for some other young person, preferably like Aliyah, to come away, to come and, you know, if not be a politician, she can be the next presiding officer.
How do you plan to tap into that, that knowledge of those who have gone before you?
Well, hopefully I could get to sit with all the presiding officers, the past presiding officers, and hear of their efforts in helping develop the Assembly Legislature, and also what were their plans that they did not get to achieve, and see how we can work best together, because I mean, this is our space. All of us are Tobagonians, and all ideas are welcome in my book. So I plan to meet with them at hopefully a conference or a tea or something. We could just have, you know, breakfast or something with the past presiding officers.
What is it that you're now finding out, now that you're in the position of presiding officer, that you did not know before, before accepting or before taking on the role?
Well, the presiding officer is, the position is such a stately one. It's such a stately one. And I don't think most people understand what the position entails. It's equivalent to the Speaker of the House in Trinidad. And I only got the full gist of what a presiding officer is supposed to do, and the respect they command as being that person who basically governs the Assembly, governs the House. After my trip to Trinidad last week, I met with Madam President of the Senate, Ms. Christine Kangaloo, and the Honorable Speaker of the House, Ms. Bridget Anisette Judd, and they really, you know, sat me down and spoke to me about how it is to be a female in the House. Now, sometimes very rowdy House, and you have to, you know, bring order into play, where most people are sometimes just being very mischievous or just want to get their point across. So yeah. Outside of the position itself, this building is so historical. I don't think most people understand the history of this building. And so, because I have a history background and I call myself a student of history, one of my key points before I leave this place, if that happens in the next 4 years or not, would be for persons, Tobagonians, to get a better understanding of the Assembly Legislature and the history that surrounds this building.
Was there ever a time that there were tours given throughout the Assembly Legislature?
Yes, they had them frequently, all up until the pandemic. So now we have to come up with creative ways of introducing the public still into the space. One of the things that I would love to see is the Assembly Legislature, the legislative history, be part of our school's curriculum. One of the many ways that we can do that is by inviting small groups of children into this space, having a mentorship program for them. The community, because we have come off of an election where a lot of people are so energized and they're so enthused and they want to be part. They had their say in that part of the governance. They want to have a greater say in this other part. It's a learning curve, I think, for everybody. So I would like to introduce communities into this space, whether it be virtual or, if COVID permits, in person.
All right. Tell us a little bit more as we go on to, of course, youth development is one of my areas that I'm always very passionate about. the incorporation and the continued inclusion in a meaningful way
Yes.
of younger persons in the governance process, whether it be through the Tobago Youth Assembly program or other initiatives. Any plans in that area?
Of course. I hope to see more sit-ins where the Youth Assembly is concerned. I think having the youth's voice in the parliament is extremely and critically important to succession planning here at the Assembly Legislature. I also hope to see that go even a step further as to introduce primary school students into the fold, because we as a people, we are losing our history day by day. COVID is taking away our older heads so quickly. We're not getting the time to collect the information so that our history would be passed on. So for me, it's really important that it be introduced into the primary schools so persons could get a better understanding of not only the Assembly Legislature but Tobago's history on a whole from a very young age, because I realize that I think at secondary school level they don't even do history anymore. It's a dying discourse, and you know we have to take steps in not only preserving what we have but passing on the information as well.
Okay, I see here on the live Assemblyman Zarisha Hackett is saying, if fitting perfectly into a position was a person, it would be you, Abby.
Thank you so much, Secretary Hackett.
And I see also we have Deputy Presiding Officer on the live. We'll use that title for this morning.
Yes.
Assemblyman Joel Sampson.
Yes, my deputy essential.
I like.
One of the other areas we would want to touch on, people generally, and I know we'd be able to go into it a little bit more, don't have an idea of what would you say is one of the key spots here within the Assembly Legislature for the exposure of information and knowledge that people have no clue about, having come here.
Okay, so the coronation, you see when you're coming in from the drive from Jerningham Street, there is almost like a chalice behind. It's a white trophy-like thing, right at the side of the building, right, the entrance of the building. That was actually downtown, in the middle of Carrington Street. You see that area where Crooks River is right now.
Right.
That was in the center of there. So it was a coronation for King George the 7th, I believe. Okay. Right? I think what people don't also know is that this building is the oldest legislative building in the country, both Trinidad and Tobago. So it's older than the Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven are those buildings around the Queen's Park Savannah,
yes.
Stallmeyer's Castle, Queen's Royal College. And I think that we should make, if not, we should make steps into ensuring that this building is a historical site, a heritage site. Because it was the foundation stone was laid in 1821 and it was completed in 1825. So it makes it the oldest building probably in Trinidad and Tobago.
But some work was done on the building within recent times.
Under the purview of Mrs. Giff. Yes, she was instrumental in restoring the building.
Restoration.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I see here Joan Richardson is saying, I am proud of you, Abby Taylor.
Oh, gosh.
And a lot of support is coming in for you.
Thank you so much.
Doniel Vincent said, Abby, you couldn't say it any better. Nyron Leong says, Madam Presiding Officer, I am very impressed.
Oh gosh, thank you so much.
I've just seen a comment coming in. Abby, you were made for this blossom where you are planted.
I always say that.
And in that context, as we look to wrap this segment, one of the areas I'd like you to touch on, we would have recently been able to see you attending and participating in the launch of a new youth organization in the Speyside area under Mr. Adriel Wheeler, one of our youth assemblymen from 2020-2021. Can we expect that as a younger person fitting into this role, that your approach is going to involve a lot more of Tobago seeing and being able to engage with the presiding officer? Tell us about your plans in that regard.
Julian, you really had to ask that question.
Yes. We got to get it out there. I know you. We got to get it out there.
But let me just pause for a moment and give kudos and a hearty congratulations to Mr. Adriel Wheeler. Like listening to that young man speak, he fills my heart. He gives me hope that our generation, we are doing a really good job with our children. So congratulations to him and Youth Transcending Boundaries. I hope I got the NGO correct.
Yeah.
And I look forward to great things coming out from him and his camp. Yes, you can put that X next to that promise. Youth would be more involved. Communities would be more involved. Women on a whole, I am a strong advocate for women. Women would be more involved in whatever we do here at the Assembly Legislature.
And we're really happy to hear. Just to let you know, Simonese Crookshank says executive plans, Madam Presiding Officer Abby Taylor. She knows about SAFE. She knows about SAFE. Where can we find the keys?
Oh, yes. We definitely do have something, and that I would have to show you a tour. That would be part of the tour.
That would definitely be part of the tour.
Yes,
definitely.
And I think it's appropriate to wrap this segment with the words of one of our viewers here, Simonese Crookshank. Very informative discourse. This information is well received. Folks, we are here, Breakfast with the Presiding Officer, special edition of the Tobago Updates morning show. In this first segment, we started the conversation with Presiding Officer Abby Taylor. And we look forward to the upcoming segments where we learn a little bit more. We'll be hearing from Special Programs Coordinator and also the man behind IT at the Assembly Legislature. At this point, viewers, we want to remind you to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Some can't take it when you talk true sense. Rather hear the words that glorify nonsense. Yes, and I got my brain.
And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash in transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
I'm Patricia Nickel.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7:30 a.m. and this is the Tobago Updates morning show. This morning we're coming to you live from Uptown Scarborough at the Assembly Legislature, special edition Breakfast with the Presiding Officer. In this segment, we're chatting with the Special Programs Coordinator here at the Assembly Legislature, Ms. Sophia Cooper. Good morning, Sophia.
Good morning. Good morning to both of you.
So as we begin the conversation this morning, Sophia, tell us, what's the role and responsibility of a Special Programs Coordinator at the Assembly Legislature?
The legislature has so much history contained in it, not just the legislative history, but the building itself, as the presiding officer indicated. So my job is to take all that information. Sometimes it might not be glamorous to read, but it's so interesting. And so what I will do is convert that into something that's interactive, more palatable, so that people enjoy it to the point where you're having so much fun you don't even know that you're learning.
How would you sell the Assembly Legislature if you're talking or taking persons on a tour, persons who are visiting for the very first time? How would you sell it?
One of the things we like to focus on is how Tobago is able to manage its resources and its people over time. And that is contained within that part of our history that is unique to us. So yes, there's the history of Tobago, there's the history of Trinidad, and then there's the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And those of us who go far back enough would understand that that aspect of it that is the history of Tobago has its own elements within it that define who we are. You know, our unique cultural aspects. So when we do tours, we like to focus on that Tobago aspect. So yes, it's within the context of the Union of Trinidad and Tobago, but just understanding that there's so much more to Tobago than just talking about the country as a whole. So we might go as far back as the first assembly, but remember, Tobago changed hands upwards of 30 times. It means that sometimes, as an island, we don't even own our own history. There would have been those who were in control of the island, and they would have taken that history with them wherever they are. So when you talk about Tobago, you're really talking about a place that has significance not just for this part of the region, but in parts of Europe. Right? And then, of course, if we want to go further than that, then, of course, our connections to other parts of the world in terms of the kind of ethnicities we have on the island. And not forgetting the first peoples. So it's not just like, okay, everybody landed here and there was nobody. Right? And so we have to recognize all those histories contained within the island of Tobago, even as we focus specifically on the legislative history of the island.
I want you to go a little further, and I'm tapping in now to that additional knowledge. I also work with Sophie on the Tobago Day Committee. Okay. And as a member of the Tobago Day Committee, good opportunity to shout out morning, Ethne Yearwood, chairman of the Tobago Day Committee, and also Miss Berkeley, staff here at the Assembly Legislature, also on the committee. The Tobago Day celebration, specifically in 2021, December 4th, celebrated 41 years. But through the presiding officer a while ago, we spoke to the Assembly Legislature, being the eldest even in Trinidad and Tobago. Just bring some clarity to that for us, for the perspective of our viewers.
Right. So the building itself is almost 200 years old, but the assembly started before that. So Studley Park, which was Georgetown at the time, because Scarborough wasn't the town then, was the home to the assembly, right? And so when we talk about 1980, when we had Act 37, right, we want to remember that that's not the beginning of the assembly. However, when we talk about Tobago Day, it's a commemoration of that aspect of the history, where in 1980 we had the reconstituted assembly. So yes, we're talking 41 years past last December, but all of that is within the larger context of what we've gone through up to that point. And those of us who had a look at the Hansard, very interesting, by the way, I recommend that people read it. When Dr. Murray talked about what it took to get to that point and what was happening on the day, listen, real excitement. You swear it's a movie. when you read it, right, and he's talking about what was happening outside of the parliament at that point in time, and he's really recounting what was necessary for Tobago. So we have to remember it's not just A&R Robinson that we're talking about when we talk about the history of Tobago and the start of the legislature, but we're also talking about Dr. Murray. So yes, 41 years, but I'd just like to say it's within a larger context when we talk about Tobago and its history.
Right. You are so passionate about what you're doing. You're like a child in a candy store. Really, you sound so excited.
it's probably a good time to make a connection. I'm seeing here on the live, Mona in the house.
Oh,
of course, you know Sophia and the Chief Secretary Farley, as well as Coris. Good morning, Coris. A study that Mona. Go ahead, Sophia.
What is it about this Assembly legislature that, you know, makes it unique to Tobago, makes it so unique from other Assembly legislatures?
Legislatures in general, they represent the seat of democracy. So a lot of times when we talk about freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we often don't recognize the role of the legislature in having that right exercised. So yes, we have the executive arm and we have the judiciary, but without the legislature, you can't pass laws. And a lot of times when we look at the policies that are developed, they usually start in some legislation. And even when we talk about the type of festivals that we have, usually it's an agreement that was made in the legislature before it became policy or before it was instituted. So for example, I love to use this example of Mr. Henry James, deceased, who created the Congo Ballet. And why am I bringing this up? Mr. James was actually the tutor for the old-time wedding in Mariah. And I remember I had this assignment for folk dances and I couldn't find a book. So I interviewed him, I drew my little stick men and so on, and I submitted that. And I was surprised that that aspect of the assignment got more marks. Why am I mentioning Mr. James? Because he was a member of the legislature. And sometimes we don't even remember those people, our neighbors, the person down the road, the shopkeeper. These are people who represented the voice of Tobagonians. So the importance of the legislature is to represent the voice of the people, no matter your political persuasion, or even if you're not supporting anybody at all. The idea is this is the seat of democracy, and without it, our freedoms that we cherish, we need to protect them, and to do that, we need the legislature.
I want you to tell us a little bit. We saw some changes, based on my research, coming to the legislature, particularly coming out at the time just after 2013 or so, with the then presiding officer, Mr. Kelvin Charles, where we saw what would have been, as some would have described it, a kind of transitioning of an opening up of the legislature. I want you to speak to that a little bit in terms of some of the programmings, and then bring us forward to the times of Dr. Angus and so on, what we have seen as some of the changes coming forward in the legislature.
Legislatures across the world are seeing that it's important to connect members of the public directly to the work of the legislature. And so when the Tobago House of Assembly legislature started its education and outreach program, it really was in line with that thought of bringing people into the space. Yes, you have representatives, but you want people to participate in their own democracy. And so a lot of our education and outreach programs really target members of the public, the ordinary man on the street. So, for example, we had the study tour. When the study tour started, the idea was to have at least one student from each secondary school come to a legislature in a foreign country that also had devolution of power, so that then students will come back and can compare our form of devolution of power. And this was an extension of the training that we did for the Tobago Day debate. So it really is a progression. Yes, we have representatives, but now we want the people to participate in that democracy. So we have the study tour. We have a night of mystery, which is a nighttime tour. Again, very exciting. We have the A&R Robinson Distinguished Lecture Series. Right? We already talked about the Tobago Day debate, and we have a number of programs that we want to start this year. Again, focusing on young people with My First Speech, but also seniors having their own debates. So it's exciting.
and I want to just, we have a few seconds before we wrap this interview, but because I know how the experience, even for me as an individual, has been as a young person growing up, I want you to speak to the importance of that kind of experience coming out of the concept of, let's say, something like the study tour. What it meant and what it did for young people being exposed to governance systems throughout the world, and then being able to come here to contribute to their own. And feel free to even speak to it in the context of one who I know that that was converted. Good morning, former Assemblyman Jomo Pitt, who moved from, or let me say, who in addition to being a lover of sport, after his exposure, became a lover of the Assembly legislature, really being able to embrace it in that context.
It's difficult to map and measure things that are intangible sometimes. And what we've seen is that by immersing people in that environment, you then see all sorts of transformations. So I have had young people say, okay, they were sent by the schools. By the time they're finished, they're like, I want to be a politician. It's that idea of understanding the role of the politician in your democracy. So we've had the study tour, again, an extension of the training that we do for the Tobago Day debate. We've had persons who participated in that who came back home and said, okay, I'd like to add this aspect to the debate. Or I have a network of people in another country and a delegation is visiting. Can I organize a tour for them here? So the idea is when we influence or when we create the environment for young people and other members of the public to understand what the legislature is about, then we see the ripple effects.
Excellent, excellent. You see the natural passion coming out from Sophia Cooper.
She's bubbling.
So we know that there's an excellent team on board here at the Assembly Legislature really driving and moving things forward. In fact, Sophia, along with the presiding officer, makes us excited about getting to know even more about the Assembly Legislature. And don't worry, folks, up next in the following segment, we'll be chatting with Marcus Wood, so we get into now what is the IT perspective. How has all this, these elements of the historic journey in bringing the legislature to what it is now transitioned to keep up with the modern times in terms of the use of technology here at the Assembly Legislature?
Okay.
Ria, you left me there.
No, my apologies. So yeah, we encourage our viewers this morning to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Ria's just taking in everything here. She's enjoying the space so much.
From place to place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. I wanna share my love, but it's gotta be with someone who's precious. You're never gonna get my love. Morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your...
It's a different type of thing down there. Man, we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7:45 a.m. and this is our special edition of the Tobago Updates morning show, Breakfast with the Presiding Officer, and we're coming to you live from the Assembly Legislature in Uptown Scarborough, Tobago. But just before we go into the next segment, Rhea, we have some shout-outs to do.
We do. We've got a birthday greeting this morning going out to Lisel Henry Wilson from the FCB family. So happy birthday going out to you, Lisel. And I know this person very, very well. So happy birthday going out to you as well from the Tobago Updates family. And a special good morning to the manager and staff of Joy's Fashion, again located ground floor, Port Mall, Lower Scarborough, Tobago, Joy Andrews and Stillis Edward, good morning and happy day going out to you. And again, we want to say thank you to Joy's Fashion for my wardrobe today. So thank you again.
You know, I just heard Rhea say that and my mind naturally went to this song. No, the camera is to focus on Rhea. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely?
You know, Julian.
Isn't she lovely? No, it fits right into the setting. Looking lovely this morning, Rhea.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right. So, folks, in this segment, of course, you know, folks, only on the Tobago Updates morning show. But in this segment, we are chatting with Marcus Woods and his project IT manager here at the Assembly Legislature. Good morning, Mr. Woods.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning, Rhea.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tobago and Trinidad. It's a pleasure being here on the fastest growing morning show. I can say that without fear of contradiction. It is the fastest growing morning show in Trinidad and Tobago.
And you know, when Mr. Woods says that, it's important because Marcus is a very influential person in the Tobago space. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so as we begin the conversation this morning, your role in the Assembly Legislature, you know, takes on, is very pivotal. And not just in the context of the pandemic currently. When would we have seen the legislature transform from a space where people just came in, did their thing, and you saw highlights of it in the news, to people now being able to follow what's happening on the legislature, whether it be via the live, etc.?
Right, so I started here in 2015. So I joined what we call the back of the curtain crew. So we have persons on the front of the stage, such as you and Rhea, and then we have persons who work behind the scenes. For persons may not know, even on your own morning show, we have at least 12 persons managing this morning show. But there's only 2 of you. Our back office staff, and I must say, we have a well-trained team of back office staff, which includes our IT personnel. We manage what persons see. So in 2015, when I joined, as Sophie spoke about, we wanted to create this immersive avenue for persons to know what is going on in their legislature. So we began live streaming in January of 2017. So it took some time from when I came in about 12 months to get the equipment, the production equipment up and running, so that we can have persons view live. And I dare say it has taken off. We'd have seen from the contribution of our 6-6 even to our last inauguration that our viewership has grown. We had probably close to 5,000 followers right now on social media. And that's just on the social media aspect, that side of the legislature.
How important was it for the public to be in tune with what was happening in the background?
The public has to know what's going on in their space. The decisions made here, more than on a political platform, actually affects their lives. And if you're not aware of what's going on, then you just don't know. And you speak from a point of ignorance. So it's really how we connect the assemblymen, connect the councillors, both on the majority side and the minority side, to the citizens.
You know, there was an era when persons just accepted what was said, or this happened, and they were just told, they were just given the second-hand story. But now we are seeing it up close and personal. It's happening in real time, just as it happens. The public sees it, they're able to critique it, they're able to understand. Give us an idea of how it all happens.
Right, so with the advent of Facebook Live and other social media platforms, let me say in about 2015, we now have the opportunity to use technology. We are going live, and persons are allowed to comment, and we don't edit. We allow persons to comment freely, because this is our space.
I know,
whether you agree or disagree.
It can also be so harsh.
It can be so harsh, and so far we have, thankfully, we have not had any comments that have been extremely disrespectful, because I think persons, although they may feel passionate about it, understand that they still need to be respectful to the space.
Right.
So we have not had any of those incidents, but we allow persons to comment, and the assemblymen can take those comments on and know how to maneuver their policies to suit the audience or to suit their clients.
I want you to tell us a little bit about within the last year of the 6-6 in the Tobago space, we saw a greater use of the chamber by members of the Tobago Youth Assembly.
Yes.
I particularly want you to share the experience where it is members of the Youth Assembly were able to make that historic connection where it is a member was actually abroad at the time, and IT and the team making it possible to connect, to participate. Tell us a little bit about the background into that sitting to be able to yield what persons saw as representation, even if you were not in the physical Tobago space.
Right. So, because of COVID-19 and other challenges, we now have parliaments becoming more agile, more innovative, more resilient. And a person may be in quarantine or may be abroad, but they still have to represent their area or represent what they believe. And technology has allowed us to now have hybrid parliaments where members can stay from the safety of their home or abroad, as we did with the youth parliament, and make their contributions. And I think young people now, because we're in the age of technology, are more gravitating towards those platforms, the Zoom and the Teams, where they can communicate in a virtual space. And the Assembly Legislature has to make that transition and allow persons to connect. So if we talk about the history of the building, it's almost 200 years old, but we need to continue moving forward. It needs to continue to evolve. And that's the next natural stage in the progression, becoming what we call an e-parliament, where the services are delivered via electronic platforms.
All right. You would have just been part of a team as well, Marcus, in terms of joining the presiding officer and heading over to the parliament and so on. Do you see, and I want you to use that opportunity to speak to what you may have been exposed to there as things that we can also bring here in the Tobago space, or what you've seen and you know for a fact, based on the ideas and plans, we can even go ahead of that. Because, you know, we don't always wait in the Tobago space to see it happen in Trinidad.
Right.
Tell us about some of those plans and projections in the context of IT.
So, in addition to the Parliament, I would have also had the opportunity to participate in the World E-Parliament Conference in 2018. I was held in Switzerland. And we also just had the World E-Parliament Conference 2020, and I was held virtually. So the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago has been one of the leading parliaments in terms of e-technology and enabling their members. And at the E-Parliament conferences, we have over 114 countries coming together and share ideas on how we can get the parliaments to that innovative and agile state where we can connect the members to the citizens. So as I said, the parliament is really doing a wonderful job in Trinidad, and we have been working with them and continue to work with them to ensure that our technology and where we are on par with Parliament in Trinidad, even not in some cases maybe in front of them.
Okay. All right, but I guess we can leave it there, Julian.
Yeah, just remind our viewers on what social media platforms, etc., they're able to connect online.
Right, so you can connect online to the Assembly Legislature on our YouTube and Facebook pages. It's just a simple search, the hashtag Tobago Legislature, and that's as simple as it gets, Tobago Legislature.
All right, excellent, Mr. Woodria. And the comments are telling this morning on our live, Ostra Trotman, I need a tour of the legislature with my 13-year-old. That's the part that's making me smile, with my 13-year-old. I'll come with a notebook. The history is rich and beautiful, and she's looking forward to opportunities to be able to arrange that. And I suspect we'd be able to get some more insight with the planning.
Yes, and we're actually working on doing virtual tours, so that should be coming on stream soon.
Excellent. So you got your response there, Ostra Trotman. Thank you for the opportunity for making us a part. And we see Tenessa Lawrence, Denisha Jones, Giselle Donaldson Yates. I love this. Very informative. Mary Griffith, very informative and professional. Keep up the good work. Good morning, Brian O'Connor. That's my cousin there, joining in on the live. Folks, we are so happy to be here, Ria. This information, breathtaking.
Definitely, and I think I'm learning a thing or two this morning, so I can just imagine for some of the other viewers.
So folks, we want to really continue to encourage you and to remind you to share the live, share the live, share the live.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
This day in Tobago history. Did you know that on January 25th, 2021, Tobago experienced its first political deadlock? According to the opening line of an article by Rhea Tate in the Express newspaper, dated January 26, 2021, about the previous day's THA election results, it appears only the National Parliament can fix the constitutional crisis arising out of the 6-6 tie in the Tobago House of Assembly election. 1 year ago today, Tobagoans went to the polls to decide the next chief secretary of the THA, only to have the election results end in a tie between two of the 5 contesting parties. The incumbent Tobago Council of the People's National Movement, led by Tracy Davidson Celestin, won 60 seats, as did deputy political leader Farley Augustine and the People's Democratic Patriots. The PNM won the seats of Bacalet, Mount St. George, Blackrock Wim, Buku Mount Pleasant, Canaan Bonaccord, Lambo Signal Hill, and Scarborough Calder Hall, while the PDP won the seats of Roxborough Delaford, Bethel Mount Irvin, Goodwood Belgarden, Palatavere Speyside, Plymouth Golden Lane, and Providence Moriah. The election results came as a shock to the nation, plunging Tobago into much uncertainty for several weeks about how the affair would be handled. Some argued that the THA could not go back to the polls under the existing act because it required the Assembly to approve an early poll. Due to the 6-6 stalemate, the new Assembly could not even be constituted to pass the necessary motion to have a new election called. While others argued that if someone from either side was willing to cross the aisle, the constitutional dilemma faced by the THA would be null and void. Ultimately, a bill was passed in Parliament to change the number of elected Assembly people from 12 to 15. This new stipulation meant Tobagonians had to go back to the polls, which they did on January 17, 2022, resulting in a 14-1 win by the PDP. You've been watching This Day in Tobago History. My name is Devon Adana.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. Rhea, in this segment, we're doing the tour.
We're doing the tour.
All right, so we begin here at the office itself of the presiding officer. Ah,
Juliet.
Ria, this is that opportunity to enter. Madam Presiding Officer.
Juliet. Good morning, Ria.
Hello. Good morning again.
Right, so let's do this. So when I came into office, the one thing that stood out to me was this.
Ah.
Right, so this is one of many safes at this building that has never been opened. So I started to do my research as to what this was, and the John Tan's Reliance Company is a company out in London, and they were instrumental in making safes for banks in the 1700s. So this is not an easy nut to crack. It actually has an almost two-fold hard as steel background. Sure, of course.
Head on over, Ria.
Touch it. Yeah, it's we don't know inside it. It's iron, it's metal. They prided themselves on making safes that no one could crack. It's fireproof. They can't open it. It can't be picked that easily. Right, so this is one of two doors that cannot be opened in my office. There's another one over on that side. You could try that as well. We tried. It can't be opened. Yeah.
You have fun, Ria. Have fun, Ria.
It can't be open. Yeah.
This is serious.
Yeah.
So what we have is a situation where history could come to life for us here at the Assembly Legislature. We are going to be writing to this company to get it open, and we are going to invite the public to view the opening. Who knows what is inside here? It could be gold.
So as part of the
you never know.
as part of the office of the presiding officer, which is the actual office, we're seeing across there. Give us a sense of that stack that says laws.
These are the law books of Trinidad and Tobago. Actually, all the assemblymen would have a copy of this. This is just a formality because you could access these online pretty easily now. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it looks good for the office.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
And we see the two flags
yes, the two flags, the flag for the Tobago House of Assembly, and of course the national flag of Trinidad and Tobago. So, another good thing that I have here, because I'm an avid reader, is this book called the Erskine May Parliamentary Practice. Now, this is what I have been told is the Holy Grail. This is the Bible for parliamentary practice. What is not in the standing orders of the Tobago House of Assembly or the Trinidad Parliament, you could find it here in the Erskine and May. So, this is going to be my little project.
That is your, according to the Holy Grail.
That's my Holy Grail. This is my Bible. This is what at the end of 4 years I would know cover to cover. Right, so let me hold it open for you.
Thank you.
Right.
You're most welcome.
So Ria, we're heading on over now.
We are going towards another area where we have a safe that cannot be opened as well.
Right.
Right, so go ahead.
All right.
And we are walking. So
Yes.
Yes.
This is the members' lounge.
We have the interviews earlier this morning.
Correct. And we're moving towards.
So what would normally happen in the members' lounge on a regular
persons
sitting?
would come and sit after. They could meet with their committees, or they could come and sit after plenary.
All right.
Yeah.
Kick off and relax and
Yes.
catch up.
So conference.
We were in that official space where they would normally take a time out.
Yes.
Staff conference room.
Yes, I think the members' lounge acted as the office of the president when we had inauguration.
Ah, Ria?
Yes.
Ria, we're doing big things this morning. In big spaces.
And this is the office of the clerk of the assembly, Miss Mona McLeod.
Nice.
Right.
Good morning to Miss McLeod.
And
morning, Miss McLeod.
Here you see part of what used to be the part of the CAST building. Remember CAST?
Yes.
Central Administration. And of course on the other side we have CAST attached to us as well. It's now our building, and hopefully when we start to build out Assembly Legislature, that will now be.
So we're talking two separate entities.
Yes.
In a similar space.
Yes, but CAST doesn't exist anymore. CAST is now under the Ministry of the Office of the Prime Minister.
But you know there was a time when every Tobagonian.
Everything function here. So this whole area is history in itself, Tobago's history, because here was the administrative building, and I think by extension, by adding on cast, it seemed fitting to have an administrative building annexed to another administrative building.
So Ria, I note very much the presiding officer just spoke to the expansions of the Assembly legislature.
Yes.
All right. So I heard right, Ria.
Yes.
So we can look forward.
Yes, we are going to be doing that very soon. This is another safe here. Well, it's another door, actually.
Right.
That you've not been able to
that no one has been able to open in years. You know, hopefully we'll get this open.
And the thing is, I guess presiding officer go, nobody.
They probably didn't see the historical value in opening it, but me as exactly, I'm going to ensure that it is
the presiding officer that opened those doors.
I'm going to open those doors. Right, so we're moving towards the tea room. Hi, Miss Danielle. This is our hospitality.
Hi, good morning, Miss
agent.
Danielle.
Good morning,
and I say THA members kitchen. Morning. Tobago updates here with you.
I have the best staff ever. So here we are in the tea room where we have pictures of what the Assembly legislature used to look like. You would see here that, well, the building was actually a courthouse, right? So you would see here and you would see the beauty of the building. It was it's Georgian architecture.
Nice.
And one thing about Georgian architecture, not only is it a beautiful type of architecture, but you see the symmetry in the building, and you also see the Georgian pillars, which was indicative of courts back then, right? We now have that in the back of the chambers. You will see when we go to the back of the chambers. There was the market, the second market, because the first market was higher up, what we now call Tambourine Square. Right. So here would have been the market, you know, right out in the front there. And the building at the side is what now is Cast building, and this building here is now what we call Jerningham's Court, at where TTMF occupies.
Nice.
Right?
So this, wow. Talk about Tobago history, viewers.
It is, Julian.
Talk about Tobago history.
Uptown, the history of Uptown Scarborough is really, really interesting, and it's really beautiful.
So where are we heading to now?
Yes, we could add some information or some credence to that. So you see the rest of the pictures. We're talking about the coronation that was moved in the 1900s. It actually was at Lower Scarborough, as I said, at Carrington Street by Burnett Hill.
Ah, this is the monument that you were speaking to, right, in your interview earlier this morning.
It was in smack dab in the middle of the square of the area down at Carrington Street.
All right, excellent.
Right? And
Ria, I'm seeing administrative
like Uptown,
building.
Right? Tobago actually saw its first car in 1904, early 1900s. Before that, everybody used to probably just walk or ride horses or something. Yeah.
So Ria, you're seeing the connection here with, this is James Park?
This is James Park. What is now James Park?
Well, I didn't even know James Park had a building. I'm too young to know that.
That's the market.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to have, market used to be every Saturday morning.
Wow.
Right? So as we move along towards the Assembly chamber, this is, of course, Mr. Patrick.
Hi, morning, Mr. Patrick.
My dutiful security. He's the absolute best.
Ah, we're seeing a wall of, yes.
He is the best. Correct. I can count on him for absolutely everything.
I'm seeing the historic walls left and right. We start on the left-hand side.
Okay, so this is Miss Anne Mitchell Gift. She was the second and the first female presiding officer. The second presiding officer, because Mr. Jeff Davidson was our first, she was our second, and we have to do this over because I'm going to give them their just due. You know, Miss Anne Mitchell Gift was instrumental in the restoration of this building. We have here Mr. Kelvin Charles. He served as both presiding officer and, of course, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. Let me correct that, Chief Secretary of Tobago. Right? And, excuse me, sure.
Ah.
you're doing over?
These are going to be done over.
I know an excellent place where you can have them done.
Sure, no problem.
This is Rear Richardson George. I'm just saying.
No problem whatsoever. So on the right-hand side, we see our first chairman, Mr. Arthur Robinson, A&R Robinson, and we move down the line to Mr. Jeff Davidson, Mr. Lennox Denude,
wow,
Mr. Hochoy Charles, Mr. Orville London, Mr. Kelvin Charles, and of course, Mr. Ansel Dennis. And very soon, we will see the picture of our current Chief Secretary and Secretary for Finance, the Honorable Farley Chavez Augustine.
And you know, she politely leaves out herself a bit because we will also be seeing the photo joining here.
Yes, and we have here Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus and Vanessa Cotton Thomas. One person who is missing is Mr. Oswald Williams, and of course I will make sure that his picture is erected on this wall as well, and of course myself.
We look forward to that.
Just a picture.
It's just a picture. It's just a picture.
Ah, so this is where we entering the chamber doors with the combination both of the national flag and the Tobago House of Assembly flag.
Before we enter, what should we know when persons are entering the legislature? What should they be mindful of? Cell phones off?
No cell phones on when you are in the chamber. Actually, you could have them on silent. This is the public gallery where persons sit.
Nice.
Where we would sit.
Yes, in Trinidad they have theirs annexed to what is called a pod. They have their IT person up here, and it's a little higher, so they actually look down at the proceedings. Yes?
All right, folks, we have entered the Assembly chamber here with the presiding officer.
Here is a plaque that was given to us by Queen Elizabeth in 1985.
This is iron, steel, tin.
Yes. Right, so I want you to watch your step as you come up. Yeah? So the horseshoe, the significance of the horseshoe is to everybody is equal. So there's no hierarchy when you're in the chamber.
Was it always this shape?
Yes.
And I think I heard once it was former chairman, Mr. A&R Robinson, speaking to the significance of the design.
Yes. It makes sure that everybody is equal inside here. There's no secretaries inside here. The jargon is members. So I would address persons as member for Palliative and Assembly Speyside, Mr. Augustine, or member for Plymouth Blackrock, Mr. Niall George, you know. So there's equality within the chambers. There's no up or down hierarchy position.
So we actually seeing, and I suspect, and you'd guide us, these were relatively new due to the pandemic in terms of the screens.
Well, remember prior to this is the biggest assembly that we have. We have 20 persons inside there. So we must ensure that persons are always protected against this pandemic that we're going through right now. So we would have installed glass frames, glass enclosures. Yes, these are for the enclosures. Ms. Sutika Orr sits here, and Mr. Tashia Boris sits here as well.
Oh, good. So viewers, yes, we're standing near to the seats of Tashia Boris, Councillor Tashia Boris, and Councillor Sutika Williams Orr.
Yes.
Seeing that she's on the live, you'll definitely have to show us right where Assemblyman Zorisha Hackett is seated.
No problem. Ms. Hackett is also our leader of Assembly business. She is the conduit between the executive and the legislature. So everything has to pass through her. And she sits here. One fun fact, I remember when we were at Parliament a week ago, I realized that when you're on the floor, you bow. I did not know that. You had to bow to the presiding officer. So when persons are moving from, whether they want to move away from their chairs or before they make a statement, they bow to the presiding officer.
Nice.
Right, and this is my form of respect, yes. So when you're on the floor, you just give a little nod, and then you proceed with whatever you want to do. And this, of course, mimics what used to be outside. Right, so, and this is actually our logo, the house. What is indicative of democracy and of courthouses back in the day.
So we see particularly left and right. On the left side, We have the Together We Aspire in terms of our coat of arms. Together We Achieve.
And we have ours.
On the right side.
Our Tobago crest as well. And here we have the seat of the Clerk of the Assembly. And
Julian, Madam Presiding Officer.
Yes.
This has never been done before.
Tobago Updates morning show, a sneak peek.
Yeah. Would never have been able to do this, Julian.
I'm really happy to be able to show you all around. I hope you all could come back when we start our programs. Of course, we will be keeping you all up to date.
And you know, I want people to get a sneak peek into these. So you get a sense of, yes, Assemblyman Zorisha Hackett. Yes. Zorisha Amina Hackett. Member for, but yes. And then, of course, she's seated right next to, usually seated in this setting, right next to the Honorable Chief Secretary.
Yes.
Farley Augustine.
And as you mentioned earlier, in here there is no hierarchy.
No, there is none. Everyone is a member inside here. And they are addressed as such. Yes.
Watson Solomon Duke, member for Roxborough Argyle.
Yes.
Dr. Faith B. Israel.
Are we in your areas yet, Ria?
Let me see. Look me here.
All right, good. All right, that's your area represented there.
Yes. Dr. Faith, go ahead.
Yes.
Let me go on.
And then we have member for Plymouth Blackrock, Mr. Niall George. Member for Scarborough Mount Grace, Mr. Trevor James. Member for Signal Hill, Patience Hill, Mr. Nigel Tate.
Good morning, Mr. Nigel Tate.
Member for Mount St. George Goodwood, Miss Megan Morrison.
Yes. Ria is shouting out Megan Morrison this morning.
Good morning,
Councillor.
Only my classmate, but my countryman. We are from Delaford. Good morning, Orlando.
Viewers, I hope you all are seeing this excitement and energy here with Ria.
We had a sit-in. Member for Buku, Mount Pleasant, Mr. Sonny Craig.
Excellent. Well, that's my area. That's my area there. Yes.
Okay.
Well, not my area rep, but the Skeet side of the family is from Buku.
Right. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Very proud. Very proud.
Member for Lambo Lowlands, Mr. Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Clark.
Member for Bonaccord Crown Point and my deputy essential, Mr. Joel Sampson.
Who seems to have serious favor with the younger females.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right, Joel. Let's carry on, Ria. Let's carry on, Ria. This would be my area representative here.
Member for Bagatelle Bacolet, Miss Natisha Charles Pantin.
All right, and that's the O'Connor side of my family, Ria. That's my mother's side of the family.
Member for Bethel Newgrange, Mr. Pastor Terence Baines. It's so weird saying Mr. Yeah. Member for Mason Hall, Moriah, Mr. Ian Pollard. Minority Councillor, Mrs. Petal Danielle Benoit.
And we had Petal on recently as well, yes.
And member for Darrell Springwim, Mr. Kelvon Morris. We have a bevy of beauties in this legislature.
So again, for the benefit of those who probably never saw it, we have the minority leader, just opposite the leader of government business and the chief secretary within our setup. And who this area that's immediately in front of you as presiding officer?
The House, the clerk of the assembly sits here.
All right.
And we have the persons from Hansard taking all the notes sitting in the center as well.
All right. Ria Richardson George.
I'm thinking this is so surreal because never before, this is the closest that I've ever been. I've sat in the gallery before.
Right.
Many years ago.
Right.
Many years ago. But this has never been done before, and I think we are honored. I know that we are honored this morning. Tobago Updates, Julian and I are honored to be able to do this with you.
Yes.
This is creating history.
I hope so. For us. I mean, it's my pleasure to have persons more actively involved, as Sophia would have said, in our democracy. I want persons to play a part. So we have to come up with creative ways in which we can immerse people in what is going on here at the chambers. We have a very open, youthful, energized set of members, and I know that they would be more than willing to have Tobagonians participate in what we do here at Assembly Legislature.
Wow, really, this is just beautiful. And I know this is normally the area where people would be entering the assembly chamber, you know, the members for the sitting, as well as the public. Is there any possibility of spaced out or small numbers of the public returning to the chamber anytime soon?
Hopefully. Of course, we are guided by the COVID protocols. We don't ever want to be in breach of that. However, we will see what we could do.
All right.
You know, even if it's virtually, we have to ensure that persons are part of our process.
Now, Julia, we're going into another segment of the show.
Yes.
Even as we just around wrap-up time, but before we get to wrap-up time, this is the part that a lot of people are always, they're excited about. So this is breakfast time.
Who did this?
Breakfast with the presiding officer.
Wow.
Oh. Madam Pio?
Thank you. Have a seat, have a seat.
You see, because viewers, it's very important that we continue the conversation this morning.
Yes.
And you know, very, very pleasing at that. I'm noticing the decor.
Yes.
And just before we go into the meal itself, would this have been the area where the swearing in took place? The Chief Justice, the Prime Minister, the President?
Yes.
Very nice.
Here was that room, that blue room. I'm sure you're familiar with the blue curtains. Yes.
All right, excellent.
But this is a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
I'm seeing a familiar face in the background. Hiding in the background.
This meal was prepared by none other than Miss Chantel Melville of Jira Things. I mean, I love to work with local persons. My clothes are from persons within my community, my cousin, KT Designs, Euphoric Designs. I mean,
we had Euphoric on.
I do. I do. So it's very, and Chantal is very accommodative. I mean, we called her like late last night.
Yeah.
I'm usually still able to make this beautiful presentation for us.
I know.
So I hope you all enjoy.
I'm guilty of that at times, but I'm happy local providers like Chantel are still willing to embrace the challenge.
She could, and she does. She does an excellent job. Kudos
and you think,
to her.
Ria, we would have had her on one of our very early shows in terms of Jira Things and so on.
Yes.
So we are happy she's giving us the chance now through the presiding officer to actually taste, having had that interview back then.
Well, Julian and Ria, it was an absolute pleasure having you all this morning. I look forward to meeting with you again and of course as we go along here at the Assembly Legislature and continue to build out our programs and the building by extension. You all would be one of the first media houses that we contact in order to get that done. So you will have full sight.
Thank you so much. Tobago updates
going on here at the legislature. But I really, really do thank you. Thank you all, Tobago by extension, for your love. I am learning. Persons here at the Assembly Legislature, we are learning as well, and I hope you will come along and learn with us. I mean, this is a beautiful story. This is history for me, so I'm really, really happy.
And you know, it's good for us to close with some of the expressions of our viewers as they continue to follow us. Humble Blessed Chick says, so heartwarming to be allowed this access and to hear the passion. And then we also hear coming in from Vernell Myers Hector, yes, Miss Abby, give them their roses while they're still alive. And I want to suspect very strongly that would have been when we were going through the hallways, being able to speak to the work of, you know, former presiding officers, the transition from chairman of the assembly and so on, and moving forward. Viewers, I'm sorry to say to you, we are just about out of time for this morning's segment. But I want to assure you, as we always do, Ria, we will ensure that we enjoy this spread here, courtesy the presiding officer, Abby Taylor, of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Ria?
All of them.
For all.
Yes.
for all. It's the love. So you see, we didn't even talk about that side of the presiding officer. Very much into fitness as well. Perhaps we'll have to do that on another interview.
I heard her mention gym. Yeah. She spoke about going to the gym earlier. But you know what? We will be happy to consume for you. Definitely. So viewers, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure indeed. Again, Tobago Updates, never letting you down. So there's always something new, something great happening on the Tobago Updates morning show. So we're going to leave it there for today. Have a great day. Stay safe on the roads. Remember to wear your mask, sanitize, and are we able to do it socially distance?
Yeah, we're able to.
All right.
Just right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much, folks. Bye-bye.
Well, last year we tested the virtual